Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ginger Broderick, and welcome to the Ginger New York TV show. We are here live every Friday afternoon. It is Ginger New York. My special guest today is an original Soul Train dancer. His name is Tyrone Proctor. He does not do very many interviews, but his friend Princess Lockerooo, who is joining us as co-host, brought him in. So, Mr. Proctor, Tyrone the Bone, I understand.
Hi, how are you?
Wow. And Princess Lockerooo, thank you very much for coming in.
Nice to see you,
Wonderful.
Ginger.
I always love having you here. And a big shout to Mama Locke.
Yes,
right?
Mama Locke.
She's one of my,
She's watching.
Oh, I love her. And you love her too, Mama Lockerooo.
Oh, yes, I sure do.
So the two of you are great whack dancers, whacking dancers?
Tyrone is actually my teacher. And he's taught me all about this dance, all about the history, and I've been on the show doing demonstrations of the dance. Tyrone taught me everything I know, and he's created, you know, a legacy by teaching this dance to young people, by sharing the history of the music, and that's why I really wanted to talk to him today, because his experience on Soul Train and was one of the most, you know, impactful experiences in global culture. That music and those dances were
and the moves and the voguing.
The whacking and the locking and the popping and his experience.
You're a legend.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
And I understand you're one of the last remaining whackers, right, from Soul Train? Is that true?
Well, I'm one of the last that would be proficient in the dance, yes.
Very good. What is it like for you to see someone like Princess Lockerooo take what you did, how many years ago, 30 years ago, and share it all around the world? I mean, you even continue to share it too, right, with
Yes.
dance classes around the world.
The internet opened up a lot of doors. You know, my life has been, it's been crazy, you know, it's been so fulfilling that, and so, what's the word? The word would be, I don't realize what's happening half the time. And to see her do what she does, it's crazy, because when I met her, no one would have ever thought that she would be where she's at, or any of my other students would be where they're at as well.
And I understand you met in a dance class, right?
Yeah.
You just have to be passing through.
Well, we met through the scene. I had, you know, I was taking a lot of dance classes, learning locking, popping, and whacking. And Brian Green was teaching whacking at the time. And Tyrone Proctor came into Brian Green's class, and that was the first time I saw him. And I was like, wow, you know, he did a demonstration. And I was like, who's this man? I need you to teach. And then in 2005 or 2006, he began teaching classes, and I was one of his first students. I was consistently in his class all the time. And
Yeah, she'd be there before I get there sometimes.
oh yeah, I was waiting outside.
And now you have, you know, World Whackdown, right? You have World Championship?
Yeah, and now I hold events in New York as well as teach in other places, and you know, we really want to raise awareness about the music and about the dance. And one thing that Tyrone always talks about is the importance of the music. He always says, if you don't understand the music,
You'll never understand the dance.
and the music is what came first. The music is what inspired whacking. And that's one of the reasons why I feel Soul Train is so important, because the music, the Black American music and dance, was one of the most positively impactful contributions to global culture. And
It's incredible, right?
It is, because I mean, even in Japan in the 1970s, they had their own version of Soul Train, Japanese Soul Train. You can go on YouTube and check it out, and you'll see the Japanese people wearing their afros, dancing to disco and funk. And I feel like, you know, one of the main problems in you know, the music dance culture today is that the portrayal of Black American urban music is degrading, it's sexually objectifying, and it's promoting promiscuity, drugs, alcohol, and it's sending a bad message. And the music and dancing of the 1970s scene on Soul Train wasn't like that at all. So, Tyrone, how do you feel about, you know, this problem, and what do you think the awareness of Soul Train and Black history could do for the youth today?
Well, you'd have to go back to the era. We were in a part where black people were struggling. They were struggling with a lot of things, identity, and a small little program by the name of Soul Train came on, and it rejuvenized black people. I think it began with the youth, my generation, my young people, because I've always said that I think each generation wants to be defined by their own. And our definition was, of course, Soul Train. You know, what Don did for black music and music in general was just, it was incredible. I mean, he single-handedly saved it. He took it from something that was audio and made it visual, which was a feat that hadn't been fulfilled. And then you also have the need for people to be to have pride in who and what they were. You know, if you recognize, or if you look back at the early shows, the ones that I was on, if you notice that nobody that danced on that show wore a hat. Nobody wore a hat. No, their hair was not covered. The reason why their hair wasn't covered was because it was Johnson Products who was our sponsor. That's an example. You know, Ultra Sheen, Afro Sheen. I still remember the whole 9 yards. I remember going there and seeing these dancers come to light because, again, back then, if you're talking about the Midwest to the West Coast, the dance scene in the black urban settings was very conservative. They would dress up, they would do what they do, they would be smooth, they would wear high boys, they would wear their Converse, and they'd wear their knit sweaters and shark skin pants and all of this. This would be all the way through the East to probably the Midwest. Then in the early 70s, you would see the television Soul Train come on, and then all of a sudden, the young people that were on there broke through all of that, and they started wearing, the guys started wearing midriffs and colors. You start to see different hairstyles prop up from some of the most beautiful black women in the world that danced on the show. I mean, it was an incredible time. And the other thing that I can tell you about Soul Train, you know, they argue that black people can't get together and dance. All the way up until the time that Soul Train ended, there was never no fight on the show at all.
It was an instant hit from the get-go.
It was an instant, and I'm talking about the people the dancers that danced on there. You know, there may have been rivals, but in terms of physical fighting and physical altercations, there were absolutely zero, nothing on there, and that in itself says a lot for the black community and something that they need to be proud of.
You know, it influenced music and fashion, and it really was a breakout. Yeah, I enjoyed watching it.
I look at it as being threefold, or most people think, and I'm speaking from a dancer's perspective. You would have dancers that danced on the show. You would have people that would dress really good on the show, and then you would have people that just the camera loved their face. And if you put all three of those ingredients together, you compiled your Soul Train.
And we have actually a very short clip of you performing on Soul Train. And if the control room can roll that in, it's a few seconds long, but at least you get an idea of what Tyrone was doing back at that time.
You're dancing to CJ and Company's Devil's Gun.
Yeah.
My favorite
Until my
songs.
necklace broke, or my thing broke.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Tyrone, you know, we wouldn't have known the history of Waacking.
Because I've been following you the last couple of years. Well, I've been following you for a lot longer than that, but I got to meet you a couple of years ago, and you always celebrate him.
Yeah, because I feel like the historical, you know, the historical importance of music and dance is something that should be in the forefront when learning an art form. Not just learning the steps, but learning who created it and why was it created and how did it impact people. That's what I think draws us together. That's why I feel that music and dance are some of the most powerful weapons, because they're a celebration of life and of culture. And the history of Waacking is so important. And Tyrone mentioned a lot of the originators' names. We never would have known who they were if it weren't for him. And so tell us about Waacking and what it's been like since you began teaching Waacking, where you, what it has done for you, what it has done for the world.
Again, as I said, my life has been nothing but surprises.
And you did it through dance. That's what's really...
I did it all through dance. I mean, most people generally go after things. For me, things just literally fall into place with me.
Because you're still traveling around the world teaching Waacking,
yes,
correct?
I just came back from China, spent a month there. I just left Singapore, and I'm leaving next Wednesday to go to Poland for a week, and then I'm coming back, and then I'm going to South America for about a couple of weeks.
Good for you. And I met you last year, or I first saw you. You were a judge in the Whackdown, the first World Whackdown, right? And it was like, oh, there he is.
The World Waacking Championship.
Yes.
So what's amazing about Waacking is that, you know, there's these movies that they make, like Step Up, you know, about the urban underground dance scene, and they have these battles and these competitions. That scene, of course, really exists. However, it's not exactly the way it's depicted in the movies. But in a scene in the early 2000s, which was primarily straight, where you would have hip-hop dance battles, house dance battles, locking dance battles, popping dance battles, they began including categories such as whacking and voguing. And what this did was it provided an outlet for gay people and women to come and be a part of this scene and be themselves, honestly, being able to dress flamboyantly or wear heels or dance, you know, in just being themselves.
Yeah, whacking would be, I tell my students, I said, you know, you really need, I tell my female students that whacking needs to be, it's the only dance form that really celebrates your femininity, you know. Even though it was created by the gay community, the flamboyancy of what they did, it mirrored what a woman is. So when a woman does what the flamboyancy of it, it's a great marriage. It's a huge marriage. It's a wonderful wonderful thing to see.
When I saw the championships last year, I was just amazed on everyone. And then the world students, they really do. It's a world championship.
And I have to, and I want to say this too. I had students, and Lockerooo had them too, because she's the one that first told me about this. But I had students, and I was teaching them, and as I was teaching them, there were 3 guys that were in there, and they were all clumped up together, and then they started to cry, and I'm asking them, well, why are you crying? Is it something that I did that's wrong? So they said, no. And I said, well, so I had to stop the class, and they just said, we're so excited. And I'm just, why? They said, because this is the first dance, this is the first place that we can come to that we can be ourselves and we're being accepted. And that in itself, it says something. You know, it says, to me it says a lot. You know, I would have never thought that I would be here championing for gay rights or anybody's rights, but I mean, here I am. Here I am sitting. Here I am standing. So it's important. It's important to know that this dance is universal. I believe.
And what was it like in the 1970s when you went to the club? Describe the scene, the music.
Well, you would go in the club, and we'll take it from the first time that I went there. I saw Papa Was a Rolling Stone. Now, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, the beats were boom, boom. The bass was going boom, 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 boom. Now, most dancers are very talented, but very few are creative enough to start creating things on the dance floor. And I think that them being able to be themselves in an area where they could be themselves and come up with this was incredible, especially at the time that you're talking about. We're talking about 72, 73. So they're in there, and they're literally posing on top of each other on the beat. Boom, 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 boom. And if you go and you look at a floor filled with that, it's really sensational.
I know a woman who has a PhD in dance, and she gets grants to go out in the club scenes and study youth dancing. And so here she's like probably 65, 70 now, and she still goes out in the clubs in New York City, and she observes what's going on with youth and their dancing. And this is a perfect example.
The club culture is where everything begins, you know, because I mean, and a lot of times the club culture, you know, people come into the club scene, they see what it is, and then they take little pieces of what they've seen, and then they put it on the mainstream in one way or another. But what's important for me is acknowledging and recognizing the originators, and that, you know, it not only includes the dancers, but the musical artists who created the music that we dance to. Because if it wasn't for that, and then describe the music that Waacking was originated to. Why is it so different than any other music?
I can pull that back to one person. His name would be Michelangelo. Now, this is in a circle of people of color. You have Spanish, you have black, you have people of color that were basically doing this. But you had one Italian man who happened to be the DJ at this one club. And DJs are they're notorious about having a big ego and wanting to make a mark for themselves. And I think the time and the place just allowed Michael to do what he did. Michelangelo played some of the best underground music that there possibly could ignite. And such dancers like Andrew, Arthur, Tinker, Mickey, Blinky, Lamont, I could go on and on and on. You know, it gave these people a chance to be able to create and show what their worth was in the form. The music was so intense and the dancing was so intense that Tony Basil, one of the original Lockers, I'm assuming she had people come down to look at dancers at this specific club. And I think in about a week or 2 weeks, they were on tour with Diana Ross.
That's something.
This is how good they were. Yeah. And the music was insane. I mean, Michelangelo was doing things with music that most people can't even fathom to do, because a gay club was extremely different from going to a straight club at that time. But Michelangelo would be responsible for it.
So he would be playing the certain parts of the music.
Yeah, well, it would be like this. If you went to a straight club, the DJ would more likely be speaking over the microphone, hyping up the crowd, doing this, doing that. But when you went to a gay club, it wouldn't be about that. It would only be about the music that's coming out of the system. He would be a lot more into EQing and the bass and the treble and all of these things that are coming out of the things. Now, they would use the microphone only if there was a dance contest, which would be once in a while. But generally, they would never, the DJ would never say anything. Michelangelo was, from what I believe, one of the first people to start using parts of the music. Like he would go Prince, Just As Long As We're Together. He wouldn't play it from the beginning. He would play it from a certain part of the music and then let it ride.
That's
I mean, he would take old music that was flops, and he would rehash them and they would be extremely popular in this club. I mean,
Go ahead.
Michelangelo was incredible.
And is this how disco music started as well?
No, disco. This is the funny thing. Disco music started overseas. It didn't start here.
Okay.
It was extremely underground. You know, Donna Summers with "Love to Love You, Baby." People may not remember this or may not know this, but she recorded that in Germany.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She recorded that with Giorgio Moroder. I mean, he did that. Then what happened is, you start getting these records coming from overseas on an underground level, not on a major level, but on an underground level. And these were the records that were starting to be played. Then you also had groups like the Temptations. They would take music and start to extend them, and that's where they would take R&B songs, like Papa Was a Rolling Stone was soul R&B, but what made it more disco was when they extended it from a radio edit to a 12-inch edit, and 12 inches mean that it would be the whole side of the album.
That's interesting. I want to run in a video of you whacking, right? It's the Waacking Championship promo.
The Whackdown promo. So yeah, the Whackdown is happening on August 22nd at Club Cielo. And we have an international judge this year, Ebony from Montreal. She's another one of Tyrone's students.
Right.
So proud of her.
Yeah.
She's doing amazing things in Canada.
Yeah. So if the control room can roll that in, and congratulations, Tyrone, for all this influence you've had for world dancers.
So the World Waacking Championships is going to be happening at Club Cielo on August 22nd. And
How can people attend?
People can check out eventbrite.com and just search Whackdown, Whack spelled W-A-A-C-K. And they can also go to my website, princesslockerooo.org. Princess Lockerooo spelled with 3 O's.
Triple
Triple
threat.
That's right, you remember.
3's my favorite number too.
Yeah. So at the Whackdown, we're having 3 categories here.
Okay.
Take a flyer and some information. We're having 3 categories. We have the one-on-one competition, and each of the categories for the prelims, there's a different theme. So we're starting off with Soul Train Fever. So we want to see the dancers work at Soul Train style. Then we're going to have other categories like Whack to the Future, where there are challenges to show us a new futuristic style of whacking. We have a solo performance category where dancers can dance to the music of their culture or country and do a whacking performance to it. I wanted to do something like that because I want dancers to be creative, and I want them to embrace their individuality, embrace where they come from. And then we have the whackography contest. So dancers have the opportunity, if they have a group, to come up with some whacking choreography.
That's great. Isn't that wonderful how you've just one student and
It's amazing. This has been a blessing for me. You know, my life has come full circle. I'm just a very happy man. Very happy.
it's wonderful to see you traveling all over the world too, and you've been traveling too.
I've been traveling around the world, and what I think is interesting is, and then, you know, which is why I wanted to speak to Tyrone today, and is because around the world they really embrace American history and American culture, and they know more about it than even native New Yorkers, as far as the history of this music and dance. There's young people, you know, early 20s, even younger, you know, to early 30s, that are appreciating the music of the 70s that was danced to on Soul Train. And I feel like it's important that, you know, young kids today know about these musical artists and know about these dance styles. Even children being born today, you know, may not know who Michael Jackson was. You know what I mean? And I find that there's less and less awareness, you know, James Brown.
Yeah.
These people made such huge contributions to our culture, and if it wasn't for the Soul Train dancers, I wouldn't have the platform that I have, you know. There would be no So You Think You Can Dance, you know, if it wasn't for Soul Train.
Yeah,
So.
when I grew up in the Midwest, out in the country, I used to go into Chicago for clubs, and I was a disco queen at that time, and I said, I have got to move to an urban environment, and I made it. And so it's really fun for me.
Chicago is like a breeding ground.
Yeah.
It's one of those breeding grounds. Philadelphia is another place that's a breeding ground, but you know, even Chicago, that's where Soul Train originated from.
Oh, isn't
was
that
from
interesting?
Chicago, yes.
Isn't that interesting? Any words of wisdom that you have for us? We're down to our last 3 minutes of the show.
Let's see. Well, we've already said if you don't understand the music, you'll never understand the dance. I'm going to give you something that's a little more gutsy for the young people that are out there. This is extremely important, extremely. If you don't take care of your body when you're young, how do you think your body's going to take care of you when you get old? That's my wisdom.
So there you go.
Very true.
And you have to really take care of yourself. Eat well, exercise, dance.
That goes from drinking,
Yes.
sex, all of that. If you don't take care of your body when you're young, how do you think your body's going to take care of you when you get old? You have to take care of it.
Very good. What's it like for you to work with him?
It's amazing. He's, you know, another one of his nicknames was Tyrone, Proctor, the Dance Doctor. And one of my latest projects that I did at Lincoln Center, he came in and he doctored up that choreography. They don't call him the Dance Doctor for nothing. He knows, he really knows how to clean things up. He's a perfectionist, you know. He's tough.
Virgo.
His toughness made me, you know, strong.
That was
and
a
made
beautiful
me,
performance.
Thank you.
And you opened up for Jody Watley, right?
For Jody Watley, yeah, who was also a Soul Train dancer, who was also one of Tyrone's Waacking students.
Oh, isn't that something?
Waacking.
The first.
The first.
Oh, isn't
My
that
first
something?
one.
And I understand you taught, what, New Boys on the Block? Is that what it
Kids
is?
on the Block.
New Kids on the Block?
Well, let's just say I kind of guided them. You know, they already did what they did, which was good. And I don't want to take anything away from New Kids, but you know, I kind of look at it like cleaning things up, making the edges a little bit more smoother, because you're talking about the beginning of their success. And God bless them. I love them all. I wish them all very well.
Yeah, great. Well, we love having you here, Tyrone. Thank you so much for coming in. I feel very privileged to have you here on
It's
the show.
such a pleasure.
Thank you, Mrs. Lockerooo.
She's like my daughter, though.
Thank you, Princess Lockerooo, for coming in. I always enjoy having you in. And good luck with your whack down next weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was
yes,
really great.
next Saturday. I hope you guys can all make it at Club Cielo.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for this afternoon show of Ginger New York. I always love having Princess Lockerooo come in and bring her friends, and Soul Train original dancer Tyrone Proctor was in. Isn't that great? So thank you so much. We'll see you next Friday afternoon at 2 p.m.